Hello everyone, dear followers, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hit subscribe and stay with us for all the twists and turns that the world of fame throws our way. I adore you all, and I hope you enjoy this video. Today, the entertainment scene is buzzing with a development that has stunned fans and stirred heated debates. Ebru, one of the most talked about actresses of recent years, and her ex-husband Akınözü are once again at the heart of a storm that refuses to calm. The spark this time? Ebru's absence from the funeral held in Istanbul for Akın's grandmother, who recently passed away in Italy. What might have been a quiet family farewell turned into a public talking point, with social media and tabloids filling up with speculation, disappointment, and passionate defenses. Many have been asking why Ebru chose not to appear, and that single decision has split not only fans but also voices around Akın's family. Some slammed the choice as inconsiderate. Others insisted that Ebru's life is her own, and that she shouldn't be forced into performing grief for cameras or critics. And yet, in the midst of all this noise, her silence has been read by some as a subtle statement, a restrained refusal to reopen old wounds. Akın's grandmother, who passed away at the age of 92, was laid to rest in a historic mosque in Istanbul, a place that has witnessed both devotion and celebrity farewells over the years. The ceremony drew familiar faces from cinema, television, politics, and business. The courtyard was heavy with prayer, memories, and photographers keeping their distance but not their lenses. Akın could not hold back his tears. Those who saw him say he looked devastated, and that the pain of loss carried a deeper shade of exhaustion. His parents, Gülüm and Güven, stood beside him with quiet dignity, trying to hold each other up as well as their son. But amidst all the notable attendees and the somber air, one absence became the talk of the day. Ebru, once the woman at Akın's side, was nowhere to be seen. The single question echoed again and again: why didn't Ebru come? When the funeral ended and the first headlines began circulating, Ebru posted nothing more than a single carnation on a black background. No caption, no names, no locations, just a simple image. If she'd hoped to defuse the situation with a modest sign of condolence, it didn't land that way. The image exploded across platforms, provoking 1,000 interpretations. For some, that flower was a respectful nod from a distance. For others, it felt like an aloof gesture, far too little for a moment this intimate. According to whispers inside the industry, her decision to stay away was deeply personal. Those close to her say that the divorce was painful and that the months of turmoil, especially the period when the name Sarah Bluma kept appearing in rumors and blinds, left bruises that are not easily forgotten. The arguments, the shuttle of speculation, the comments under every post, it all built a wall that made family gatherings impossible without dragging headlines along with her. One friend confided that Ebru's choice had nothing to do with disrespect. She told us, "I care for them, and I always will, but walking into that mosque would open questions and scenes no one needs. It wouldn't be right anymore." On the other side, those close to Akın say her absence cut deeper than expected. After the funeral, he reportedly sat with friends and admitted that, on such a day, he wished for at least a message that said more than a flower. Not a reconciliation or a grand scene, just a brief acknowledgement of their shared years and the affection his grandmother once showed her. Some sources insist he found the silence hurtful, perhaps even humiliating in the glare of the cameras. Others caution that he hasn't put out any official statement, and that anything circulating right now is just the echo of emotions too raw to be pressed into quotes. That didn't stop the murmurs from growing. After the ceremony, Akın's mother, Gülüm, spoke softly to a small group. She did not mention Ebru's name, but her words seemed aimed with precision. When hearts are heavy, old fights should rest. We hoped for at least a sign of respect. Staying away leaves marks. Everyone makes their choices. Some things, though, don't fade. Her sentence traveled fast, clipped, rephrased, blown up. It felt like a note sealed with sadness and a little sting of reproach. The internet, as always, chose sides. One wave of users stood up for Ebru, insisting that her chapter with Akın is closed and that attendance would only fuel more voyeurism. Why, they argued, should she place herself at the center of a family's private grief when the cameras would make it anything but private? Another wave, just as loud, framed the day as something beyond feuds or former love. A funeral is sacred, some wrote, and in that space, etiquette transcends wounds. Page after page, comment after comment, the conversation circled around themes of respect, boundaries, and who gets to decide where empathy ends and self-protection begins. The Italian press picked up the story too, tracing it back to the time when Ebru and Akın were inseparable and when his grandmother reportedly treated her like a granddaughter. A few headlines emphasized that close past, writing that her absence surprised relatives who remembered gentle afternoons in Italy, shared meals, and affectionate photographs now tucked away in drawers. Disappointment in the Italian family, one line suggested, as if the grief of death needed another layer of hurt. And then there was the name that slid back into conversation, Sarah Bluma. Even though no one expected Sarah to be present at the funeral, a number of gossip accounts insisted that Ebru's absence had shifted the spotlight, giving Sarah a fresh opening to reattach herself to the family story. That single idea ignited another round of arguments. Some insisted the speculation was absurd and cruel, designed only to stir chaos where there was already enough grief. Others, more cynical, argued that the absence was symbolic, an unlocked door, whether intentional or not. By not showing up, one commentator snapped, she left the path clear for the past to step closer again. Whether any of that holds truth is impossible to say, but once a rumor becomes a headline, it starts to feel like a fact, and that's how drama turns into narrative. People in Ebru's circle described the past week as excruciating. She weighed the decision, they say, right up until the eve of the funeral. She knew she would be criticized no matter what she did. If she appeared, the cameras would read every glance and gesture, and if she stayed away, it would look icy. A friend shared that Ebru had a genuine affection for Akın's grandmother and sometimes still speaks of her warmth in private moments. She didn't want to stir any new misunderstandings, the friend said. It was not defiance, it was restraint. She believed distance would spare them another spectacle. Television panels seized the topic like a gift. Some anchors repeated that a woman has a right to live without constantly answering to the expectations of her ex's world. Why must she bear the burden of proving she is kind? Why is her empathy measured by her willingness to step into a place that would only magnify the pain? Others countered that grief, as public as it became, still belongs to a family, and that rituals of respect do not demand love, only a quiet nod to what came before. Columnists wrote essays, influencers uploaded earnest monologues. Every take, every angle, every ounce of moral certainty found its audience. Meanwhile, those who were actually there tried to put one foot in front of the other. The historic mosque, emptied of the crowd, was left with the hush that always follows the last prayer. The family reportedly gathered afterward, close friends in tow, trading stories about a woman who lived long enough to see grandchildren become stars and to see the same fame complicate her household. What would she have wanted on that day, the family must have wondered. A scene? A truce? Or simply peace? Some of Akın's confidants say he is trying to keep his focus on honoring his grandmother's memory instead of retracing the steps of a relationship that already ended. Even so, that simple sentence he shared, about hoping for a few words, lingers. When people are grieving, it is the small gestures that either cushion the fall or make the ground feel harder when you hit it. It's impossible to know whether a phone call would have made any difference to the quiet inside him. Perhaps it would have. Perhaps nothing could. As for Ebru, she has remained almost entirely silent. Apart from that carnation, there have been no notes, no interviews, no whispered responses through a spokesperson. Those who support her say she has chosen dignity over public performance, as if to prove that not every chapter requires a final paragraph written in the language of spectacle. Those who criticize her insist that silence is its own kind of statement. In this argument, both sides are certain, and certainty often leaves no room for grace. What about Sarah? If you believe the accounts that live on gossip pages, she has said nothing, which is a rarity in a world that rewards quick reactions. In a way, that silence speaks too. It avoids piling onto grief. It keeps the conversation from twisting into a triangle of blame. But it also leaves a vacuum that fans are only too eager to fill with theories, timelines, and accusations no one can prove. Days have passed, and the conversation has spread far beyond the initial moment. It has become a mirror for everyone's ideas about love, endings, and what we owe to each other when the lights are no longer on. Some voices hold that Ebru has every right to stand where she chooses and that maturity sometimes looks like stepping aside, even when it comes at a cost. Others hold that dignified invitations to say goodbye transcend the tangled knots of the past. Both ideas carry weight. Both come from places of empathy, just aimed in different directions. And perhaps that's the heart of it. Grief does not care for headlines. It doesn't enjoy our debates about form. It arrives, it settles, and it leaves people changed. The rest of us are left to interpret gestures, to turn silence into meaning, and to decide who acted with grace and who did not, though we can't possibly know the fullness of their hearts. What we do know is this: a grandmother was honored in a city that holds memory like treasure, a grandson wept, parents leaned on each other, and a woman who once belonged to that family stood far away, sending a single flower into the void, hoping, perhaps, that it would be enough. We've reached the end of our video from Secrets Behind the Stars. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. I love you all so much. See you in the next video.